Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today or watching this on demand. And this is Laying the Groundwork, November Steps for a Seamless January Filing Season. I'm Zach from Earmark, and I'm going to hand this over to your two instructors for today, William and Desmond. Please take it away.
Thank you, Zach. William, I am a TaxBandits customer support specialist, and I'm joined with Desmond, my co-host.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Desmond. I'm also a TaxBandits customer support specialist.
And today we'll be going over a few different topics to help you get prepared for January, things that you can do now in November, going into and getting prepared for the filing season. Some of the topics we'll be reviewing are reviewing the client list, confirming deadlines, and client preparation. Pretty much just steps that you can take now to get everything in order and start doing your part to have a smoother January season. So you can start getting things entered, get all the information that you need now from clients that you'll be working with, as well as any new clients that are coming on, or if anything's moving around, as well as getting familiarized with all the information that you need now, like deadlines, and seeing who needs what, so you can have a better season in January. Starting off, reviewing your client list, just kind of seeing who you have currently, if you're new, who you've taken on, if you're established, trying to see like who you currently have and any new clients that are going to be coming in, any new clients that might be leaving as well. You'll want to determine what forms and information that you'll need from them. Are they going to be filing 1099s? Are they going to need W-2s or both? And this is just kind of the overall schedule for this topic, as well as starting to upload that information. So determine which clients need 1099s, W-2s, or both. You may be working with specific people who file just 1099s, W-2s, or both. So it's really important to know what forms you'll be filing for them and what types they would need. So for example, W-2 is pretty standard, but with 1099s, there's various types that can be filed for. The W-2 is mainly for employees for reporting wages and withholding, while typically contractors receive a 1099. That could be a 1099 NEC, a 1099 miscellaneous. There's various types of 1099s that can be filed for. You'll want to review previous filing information for prior clients. Check who you have already entered, who you have already with you in your system, any e-filing software that you might be using. Check and see what information you have with them, and check in with them and see if they need any updated information or if they have any new recipients that you'll need to add into the system. Check in with new clients. Determine the new clients and ensure they're entered into your filing system and verify all of their necessary information. Doing this now is going to prevent a lot of issues that might come up later in January if you can go ahead and verify everything now. A lot of e-filing softwares use things like TIN matching or USPS validation to make sure that everything is right. All the names and TIN numbers match with what the IRS might have, that addresses are accurate and are correct where you can deliver any mail that you might need to for any postal mail deliveries for recipient copies. And you want to make sure that you have all of that in an organized location like an e-filing software or within your office, just somewhere central where you have all of the information collected and updated and easily accessible for you and your staff.
Alrighty, so yes, a very important thing to prep and to know when getting prepared for the upcoming filing season is confirming your deadlines. It's best to mark any calendars to ensure a smooth filing season. And we're going to discuss a little bit more about the federal filing deadlines, the recipient copy deadlines, and any state filing deadlines that you may encounter during this process. And understanding these different deadlines will not only ensure compliance with both federal and state laws, but it will also help you avoid penalties and fines down the line. First off, we have the federal filing deadlines, Some important things to consider is the deadline on a weekday? Is it on a weekend? Or does it fall on a holiday? If it does fall on a weekday or a holiday, usually the next business day um, will be your new federal deadline. And also, another thing to consider is, does your recipient need a copy by or before the filing deadline as well? And an important tip is to set internal deadlines within your company or firm to ensure that you and your clients are on track to meet these different federal deadlines.
Wait, I just want to double check again. You said if it was on a weekend or a holiday, that's important,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So if it falls, for example, I do believe the 2025 deadline, which is January 31st, um, falls on a Saturday. So the federal deadline is now pushed to that following Monday on February 2nd.
Okay, that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah. And here we are. Here are the federal filing deadlines for 2025. As mentioned earlier, the 1099 NEC deadline and the W-2 deadline both fall on February 2nd of 2026. And for the 1099 miscellaneous deadline goes a little bit later on March 31st of 2026. And depending on what form you file will determine your federal deadline. For example, if you're filing a 1099 dividend, that deadline may be different from the NEC or the miscellaneous. So, for more information regarding the different deadlines for the specific 1099 form that you're trying to file, feel free to visit the official IRS website for more information. And also, for more information regarding the W 2 federal deadline, feel free to visit the official Social Security Administration website. Yeah, and as we get into more about the recipient copy deadline, a big thing to know is the filing deadline the same as the recipient copy deadline? And depending on the form, that may not always be the same deadline. For example, for the 1099 miscellaneous form, the recipient copy deadline is on February 2nd of 2026. So you have to make sure that all of your recipients have a updated copy of their 1099 miscellaneous form by that time. And then you'll have to file those 1099 miscellaneous forms later on in March. And for both the 1099 NEC and the W 2, the recipient copy deadline is the same as the federal e file deadline. And also, keeping track of these recipient copy deadlines will not only ensure that your employees and your contractors can file their own personal tax returns on time as well.
It's a pretty good point. And on top of that, the earlier that you get on this information and get these forms filed, in the event that there's something that might be off, something gets misreported, you have plenty of time to also administer. You could have plenty of time to administer a correction form just in case something might have gone out and a recipient notices it and says, wait, something's not really right with this amount, or this information is not totally accurate.
Of
Doing it a little late, doing it a little earlier gives you a
course.
little more time and wiggle room so that you can make sure that everything gets noticed, updated on time, and really just helps prevent any further issues going on into the season.
Yes, yes. And the earlier you give your recipients their form copies, the more time that you give yourself to plan for any updates or any corrections that you may need to do on their actual form before sending it to the federal and state agencies. So, yeah, the earlier the better. Alrighty. And some more things to consider about the recipient copy deadline is, how do you plan on distributing these copies to your recipients? You can, there's multiple options for this. You can do it by postal mail, and depending on your tax filing solution, they may have a service where you can opt in for postal mailing, and your tax filing service can take care of these postal mailings for you. And also, if you have an online portal either through your firm or through the tax filing solution itself. You can provide electronic copies for your recipients to access throughout the year or whenever they need it. And also, if you have your own distribution services within your company, you can always use that as an option. And also, in terms of postal mailing, it's very important to have the actual postmark date um, meet the deadline. So the actual form can go out a little bit later than the deadline, as long as that postmark date is before the recipient copy deadline or the e-filing copy deadline, depending on which deadline you're trying to meet.
And with having a tax filing solution, how would that be a little different than just handling it yourself?
Well, with your tax filing solution, they can include that service within the filing, so you can essentially take care of two deadlines at once.
And I see that online access is an option. Why couldn't I just email the form to my clients?
Well, sometimes emailing the form, especially if they have like a regular Gmail or if it's outside of a secure portal, is not always the most secure, especially with tax forms, because tax forms have their sensitive information such as TIN numbers, social security numbers, and a whole bunch of sensitive information that may not be appropriate to send in just a regular email.
Right. Okay. And hopefully with the online access, that'd be a little more secure, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully there's some security measures in place, like maybe having a password.
Yes. Depending on the tax service, they may have a password credential set up, or or the recipient has to confirm some type of information before receiving that recipient copy, just to ensure that your data is protected and safe.
Okay.
And also, especially in these secure portals, it's important to not only get the recipient's consent, and depending on the portal, it'll have an option where they can provide the consent before accessing their
Okay.
form. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with that, now you mentioned the postmark date. So does that mean I can like mail a copy out February 2nd?
I personally wouldn't recommend that because that postmark date may fall a little after that. I would,
So obviously
if you
sooner
can,
the
yeah,
better, right?
yeah, the sooner the better. If the postmark date falls before the deadline, then you're all good to go.
Okay, so as long as I get everything out by that postmark date,
Yes.
as long as it still has that date, if that's like the earliest that it could go out, then
Yes,
I'm fine if if a recipient would get it February 5th.
of course.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so we're going to move on to the state filing deadlines. Much like with the recipient copy deadlines, you have to consider, are the deadlines the same as the federal filing dates? And to meet the state filing deadlines, you may need to provide some additional information, such as a state ID or like a state tax number that you set up with that particular state Department of Revenue, or any reconciliation forms or any other supplementary filings for your 1099 or W-2. And depending on your state, these state lines can differ significantly from the federal ones, and they may change annually. So it's always important to verify these specific dates with your official state Department of Revenue or your state agency.
Now, could you elaborate on the reconciliation form? Is that like a W-3 or 1096 for the state?
Not not It's pretty similar in terms of these reconciliation forms and like the summary forms that you mentioned, like the 1096 and the W-3. They confirm the tax amounts that were paid to your employees. So with the reconciliation forms, they just want to ensure that the same amount of withholdings was taken out, and that if you owe anything to the state, that it was properly paid for. If not, then um, you'll need to provide that payment later down the road.
What if I don't have any withholdings though? Like, say maybe a client didn't have any withholding, they just dealt with 1099s. Would I still need to do a reconciliation form for the state
Again,
you
yeah.
offer?
Oh yeah, that's a really great question. Again, that ultimately depends on the state. If there are no withholdings on that particular 1099 or W-2, you may not even be required to file that W-2 or 1099 with the state at all. You can just take care of that federal filing as is. If there's not any withholdings either, you may not be required to file like an additional reconciliation form, and you can just worry about sending the W-2 or the 1099 to that state. So it ultimately depends on your particular state's requirements.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
And with the state ID, would I or maybe somebody who's filing need to have my own state ID? Could I use my EIN or a specific TIN for that? How would I go about getting?
Yeah, of course. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but again, it ultimately depends on your state requirements. Depending on what state, for example, South Carolina, you can use your EIN when sending your 1099s or W-2s to the state of South Carolina. Or if you need to set up your own state ID, you'll need to contact the Department of Revenue to set up your own tax account with them, and they'll be able to provide you a specific tax ID. And depending on the state that you're in, the tax ID format may differ, and there's different types of formats that are acceptable when sending your 1099s and W-2s to that state.
Okay, so I may not be able to use my EIN. I might have to use a specific format by that state, correct?
Correct, correct. And it's
Okay.
very important to like confirm with that state agency, or if you have a CPA or a tax advisor, it's best to check in with them just to make sure that you're in full compliance for your state.
And let's see, with the state IDs, what if I'm doing taxes for like somebody else in a different state? Would I need a state ID for them, or would I need to get anything? Would that client maybe need their own state ID?
Oh, that's a great question. So, depending on what state that your recipient or your employee worked in, it comes with its own sets of residency rules. So if, let's say, I have an employee that worked in Arkansas, but my company is in California, you may need to use your California payer information when sending that information over, and then you'll just have to include whatever um, state taxes or state specific
Mhm.
withholdings that Arkansas employee may be prompted to.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so that could be like if somebody's working across state lines or
Yeah.
remote workers in other states, right?
Yeah, if they work across state lines, if they resided there for a period of time while working, then it all comes to play for their state filing and their state income and their withholdings.
Okay. So the next section we'll talk about is client preparation, setting the expectation for what's needed, and also establishing deadlines for clients. These are really important things. Kind of the expectation definitely just starts with communicating with the client. What do you need? Make sure you know what forms you will need for your client and communicate with them, talk to them and see what they would need filed, what they're looking to have filed this year, and how many recipients they might need. You could say maybe somebody's only having like 2 W-2s, but they might have 15 1099s. It's really good to get all of that information now, as well as any withholding information from like a W-4 or W-9, because a lot of that will also have a lot of the same information with other forms provided for you. So like the recipient information, the name, the address, TIN number, any specific classifications for that recipient. Getting all of that together now will help consolidate a lot of the work and information that you'll have to prepare. And communicating with the client in advance not only helps you prepare, but helps them prepare. So the sooner that they know this is what I need, X, Y, Z, the sooner they can get that to you. And the sooner you can say, like, this has been communicated, and you can keep a running log and make sure, makes it easier for you to keep track of who sent you what information. And yeah, pretty much just keeping that channel of open communication.
Yeah.
Establishing deadlines for clients is really important as well. Not only is the IRS, state agencies, anybody, any government body going to have a deadline, you should have your deadlines for your clients on when they need to get information to you. And this will help you kind of schedule out what you can do in preparation for getting their forms filed. They'll need time to get their information together. So having concrete dates to say, this is the cutoff date for when I need it by. I might still take it a little later, but just know that something might not get prepared on time. Or, I need everything by this time so I can ensure that the recipients get the correct information, get that sent out properly so everything is sent out and remaining in compliance. Letting them know that now is going to save you a lot of time, and being more communicative is always going to be better than being less. So that way, like, this is what I need, this is what I need, this is what we need from you. And in order to get all that information together, like, here's how we can organize it. And also, clients might have questions on where to get this information if they don't have everything all together. Hopefully they do, but they might need to gather some documents if things have moved around, or you might be working with people where a company might have changed leadership. Your normal contact might not be the same contact, so it's good to also get that information now. Like with the deadlines for your clients, entering and submitting their information is going to take time for you. If you're operating solo, or if you have a staff team of 10 people, it'll be different, the amount of time it takes for forms and information to get uploaded and completed. So just analyze how many clients you have, how many forms they will need, what all of the information that you would need from them, and how quickly they can get that to you. Use that to determine, like, when you'll need the information, when you'll need to start entering everything in, and make sure that you have a schedule that's going to work for you. And distribution, this is another important part. Once you're getting the forms entered, the information entered into the system, however you're planning on doing anything, that recipient copy is going to be very important, just as well as the federal e-file and state e-file. Having that recipient copy sent out is going to avoid many penalties, as long as you get it sent out on time. And having all these deadlines internally will help just kind of emphasize the importance of getting all this information to you, and hopefully also kind of instill a little organization with any recipients or clients that you might have, as long as they know that that'll help you keep them in good hands, and they'll be taken care of and feel comfortable coming back to you for any filings.
Yes. And do you have like a specific like suggestion or like a tip for either CPAs or just like tax filers who are having a little trouble getting their recipient information from like their recipients?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times life can happen. I mean, people are busy, jobs and industries are different no matter where you go. Some people might be, someone working in the restaurant industry might have a different time and different communication schedule than somebody working in like a government agency, just looking to get one or two things done. So it really is just going to depend on the situation, but keeping everything organized in a central location is going to help. If you have old clients returning, you probably already have their information entered into like a filing cabinet or an e-filing software. That's extremely helpful because that'll keep everything all together. And really, if anything has changed, all you just have to do is go and edit the information rather than having to enter everything all over, start from scratch. So having a centralized system to maintain that information is really going to be beneficial, and help you keep everything together. On top of that, getting a backup contact would be really good. If somebody is in charge, they should have a second in command or another person who's handling other tasks that might be part of their company. Or so knowing who to go to when your main contact is not available is really good. I mean, we hear it all the time with clients calling in and saying, I need help. Like this person that I used to talk to has just disappeared, or I don't know who to get in contact with their company and get these filings done. And so having a second contact, a second person that you can go to, and in case the first person isn't available or your primary contact isn't available, that would be extremely helpful in situations and in this situation. So that way, like, oh, if this person I can't reach them, or their business structure has changed, their staff has changed and moved around, having that information now and having that second contact is really going to help with knowing at least what might have happened, so you can still get the information and still make sure they're taken care of.
Yeah.
And not just with clients, but with recipients as well. I mean, with the W4s and the W9s, different things can happen. Recipients, people get married. They might have a name change, and they might need to update that information. They have a new social security card, and they have to make sure that gets updated everywhere and with their new name. Business names can change. On top of that, a lot of times, sometimes people might go by a nickname, and they'll put that on a form, or a company is going by a DBA name. So making sure that you have updated W4s and W9s in preparation for the season, making sure that you've got the most recent and up-to-date and accurate information will help eliminate any errors that might come with filing, or at least like prevent as many errors as possible.
Well said. Yes, agreed. And also, for my recipients out there, you don't have to wait for your CPA or like your employer to reach out to you. If you like got married recently or had any changes to your like withholding information or just any important tax information, you can just reach out to them and let them know and ensure that they have the most updated information on file as well. It will save you and your CPA a lot of time in the long run.
Yeah. On top of that, I mentioned earlier about TIN matching and USPS validations. There's different services out there, and especially if you're using an e-filing software, that can help you determine if something is correct. So for example, a business using a DBA name, the IRS might not recognize that as the legal name. So if you were to do TIN matching ahead of time, you can check that and see if that would come back as a positive match or a negative match. And if it comes back negative, then you still have time to reach out to that client and say, hey, you gave me this name on your W-9. Is that like the actual name, or is that just a DBA name? So you can get the information updated in your system. And that'll prevent and help eliminate any corrections that might happen later. And obviously, you'd rather have all that information sooner than trying to wait until February 2nd.
Yeah, and also persistence is key. If you're trying to like hunt down a client or like a recipient, you may not get them on the second call, but you may get them on the third call or even the fourth call. So ensuring that like you're constantly like keeping in contact with your recipients, your team members, just to ensure like all the information is together and centralized. Yes.
And along that, we talked about corrections and mistakes that can happen, because with not having a correct name, or if there's something that doesn't match up with the IRS's side, that can open the doors for needing to do a correction or needing to do some other extra action that you may not have accounted for. For example, with 1099s, whenever they're going through, they're getting filed, the IRS has a status that's known as accepted with errors. In that sense, that's just letting the filer know that the IRS has accepted the forms and they acknowledge that they accepted your forms and that you filed. But some of the forms might have had a mismatch, something you write with the name or the TIN. So if somebody got married and had a name change, or if they've legally changed their name for whatever reason, if that's not updated in the IRS's system, or they've not done all the proper paperwork to get that updated, you may have to update it with old information or new information. And DBA names as well, going by a doing business as name rather than submitting paperwork with the legal name of the entity, whether they're using multiple DBAs or they just go by one, that could be very different. That could result in an accepted with errors situation. On top of that, if somebody is doing business and they've got a W-9, but they're classified as like an individual, when they use their social security number, that's going to be very different from an EIN. The formats are different, and that could raise some issues as well. There's also ITINs for any foreign residents, anybody who may not be a citizen but still needs a tax ID in order to work. Having TIN matching for that will also help determine and make sure that you have the correct name with the correct TIN type, EIN, SSN, ITIN, whatever it may be.
Yes, and depending on your tax filing service, they may have like these TIN matching services built in just to ensure that your TINs, also known as tax identification numbers, are accurate, are correct, and also if you have, and they may also include like USPS validation to ensure that the address for the recipient is most accurate based on the USPS database.
Yeah, and not only that, getting all of this information together too, you might be dealing with clients who are used to paper filing, so they might have everything, just hand you a stack of papers and say, here's everything, which hopefully that's not the case. However, there's still people paper filing. And with that, you'll want to check for any IRS updates as well, because sometimes a form that used to be able to be paper filed is now going to be required to be e-filed, or if they're filing over a certain amount, usually 10 forms or more for one company, the IRS requires e-filing for all of those forms. And so it's really important to review any changes that might have happened. Even this year, for example, the 1099 NEC has had a change where a box that used to be on the 1099 miscellaneous has now moved to the 1099 NEC for the golden parachute payments. Yeah. So having all of that information together and reviewing any IRS changes is also going to help with making sure that the information that you have is up to date. So that way, not only you know what you need, but you can accurately give that information to your clients and say, here's all the specific pay information, specific income information, any withholding, any updates that need to happen. You can provide that for your clients and say, this is what I need, so they can give everything to you, hopefully timely.
Right. Very true. Very true.
All right.
Thank you both. And for everyone who is here live, I'm going to give you a quick reminder on how you can earn CPE for attending today.
Today's event has ended. To earn CPE, go to earmark.app or scan the QR code on the screen. Then log in or create your free account. Search for the course by tapping on the magnifying glass icon on the home screen and then entering the name of this event. It takes a few days to make the course, so if you're attending this event live, keep an eye out for an email letting you know when the course is available. Pass the quiz to earn your CPE, then tap the button to email yourself a certificate. Stay tuned for more events from Earmark. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon.